Good morning, everyone. My name is Drew Hitchner. I am a research technician at CEI for the Reef Ecology team, and also one of the advisors for the coral research class.
Good morning, I'm Dr. Christine Stump. I'm a research associate at the Cape Eleuthera Institute leading the Reef Ecology Research Program. And Drew and I have been co-advising the coral research class this semester, so we're going to let these guys tell you about the work we've been doing.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. Our study focuses on acroport monitoring and restoration in South Eleuthera. I'm Riley Edgar.
I'm Taylor Robertson.
Colin Braun.
I'm Franny Delacqua. I'm Anna Tessier.
And I'm Austin Hoffman.
Coral reefs are a key ecosystem on a global scale. They provide shoreline protection to millions of people, protecting against large stochastic events such as hurricanes. Coral reefs also provide structure for habitat that allows for high biodiversity. This habitat is key for commercially important species, such as grouper, snapper, lobster, and conch. Local economies also rely and thrive off of coral reefs, specifically focusing on the tourism industry, which includes recreational diving and snorkeling. This is particularly important here in the Bahamas. Coral reefs are very important, but they have faced many threats in recent years. Specifically focusing on the Caribbean, the die-off of key algae grazers, such as Diadema antillarum or the long-spined sea urchin, has led to macroalgal overgrowth in many areas. This kills off the coral and is very bad for the population. Climate change and factors directly caused by climate change have also affected coral populations in recent years, specifically rising ocean temperatures, which leads to coral bleaching, which can kill the coral. Disease has also affected the populations in recent years, killing off a number of specimens in recent years. Now that the corals are already stressed, hurricanes only further add to the damage being imposed on them. Other anthropogenic causes, or human causes, such as pollution and boat anchor damage, have also affected the coral populations recently.
Caribbean coral populations are in decline, so we decided to focus our conservation efforts on Acropora palmata, or elkhorn coral, and Acropora cervicornis, or staghorn coral. Acroporids are fast-growing corals and can grow up to 30 centimeters per year in some environments, in comparison to other types of coral, like Diploria or brain coral, which can only grow millimeters in a year. Acroporids are reef builders and provide habitats for fish and provide shoreline protection. Acroporids have also suffered a 95% decline since the 1970s and 1980s due to the factors Riley mentioned, specifically white band disease. We had two major objectives for our semester-long study. The status of Acropora palmata, or elkhorn coral, in South Eleuthera is unknown. It has never been looked at before. For our first objective, we set out to take the first baseline assessment of wild elkhorn colonies at several different sites here in South Eleuthera in order to create a set of data for future research to compare to in order for the health of these wild colonies to be monitored. For our second objective, we participated in active coral gardening of staghorn coral by maintaining CEI's coral nursery at Tunnel Rock. Acroporids are unique and can be grown from fragments, which can then be outplanted onto natural reefs in the future once the fragments are big enough.
Here is a map of southern Eleuthera. To the east, we have the Atlantic Ocean, and to the west, we have the Exuma Sound. And we are here at the point of Cape Eleuthera at the Island School. To collect data for our baseline assessment of elkhorn coral, we went to 4 different sites. We went to Fourth Hole, Bamboo Point, Lighthouse Beach, and Cotton Bay. At each site, we went snorkeling because elkhorn coral thrives at depths just below the surface. We first gathered the morphometrics of each colony. So we gathered the max length to the nearest half centimeter, the max width, which is perpendicular to the max length, and the max height. We next estimated the live percentage of coral just to see how it's surviving. We then checked the colonies for any signs of disease. As Riley and Taylor mentioned, they killed off large sums of the populations in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. We lastly checked for predator presence. There are carnivorous snails that actually eat the coral alive and are detrimental to the regrowing of the coral. Our team went scuba diving at the Staghorn Coral Nurseries at Tunnel Rock. The nurseries are 35 feet deep because staghorn coral thrives at those depths. The nursery trees themselves are made out of PVC pipes because PVC does not corrode in salt water. Each staghorn coral fragment is attached to the trees by either a zip tie or monofilament. We participated in maintenance efforts of the nurseries by scrubbing off algae with brushes and toothbrushes so that it did not overgrow the coral.
We surveyed wild elkhorn coral, or Acropora palmata, at 4 different sites in South Eleuthera. What we found is that there were significant differences in the depths among the 4 colonies, where Cotton Bay was the deepest at about 1.5 meters and Lighthouse was the shallowest at only half a meter. This graph shows the depth in meters and the 4 sites on the x-axis. We also looked at the average colony size, and despite the difference in depths, there was not a statistical difference among the average colony sizes. We measured it in meters cubed, meaning length times width times height, and this shows the amount of space that a colony takes up. We also estimated the average percentage of live coral per colony. In this graph, the y-axis shows the live coral percentage, and again, there was not a statistical difference in the percentage, but the average was about 65 to 95%. We also looked for predatory snails and found them on the corals of 3 out of the 4 sites, which is somewhat alarming. And we also looked for disease and did not find any signs of disease on any of the sites.
Although we found differences in depth among the sites, we did not find any difference in colony size or amount of live tissue. This may be a result of low sample size, preventing us from detecting a statistically significant difference. From our observations, it is clear that the Acropora palmata, or elkhorn coral, around here in South Eleuthera is generally doing well. But from the amount of old dead structure, it is apparent that past populations were much healthier. However, it is still unclear if the populations now survived previous die-offs or are new growth. Our data serves as a baseline that can be compared to more data from here or from other locations. We recommend increasing the sample size and geographic scope for palmata monitoring. Additionally, we successfully maintained a coral nursery for staghorn coral, and that should continue to be a part of the restoration effort for CEI's initiative.
As we have described, reefs are in decline due to a number of threats, particularly acropores in the Caribbean. During the semester, we have participated in active restoration efforts to help rebuild coral populations. We have also done the first ever baseline assessment of Acropora palmata, or elkhorn coral in Eleuthera, and found healthy, possibly recovering populations. Finally, we recommend continued monitoring to track the recovery or decline of these corals into the future. This is our literature cited. We'd like to acknowledge the Island School, CEI, Brittany, Callie, Ron, the boathouse staff, the kitchen staff, Jason, and our parents for giving us this opportunity. At this time, we're open to any questions. Yes.
I would just like to make a statement of being here for 37 years and in front of Cotton Bay, in front of our house, which I think you went in, that was 90% elkhorn coral, 15 feet high, all the way down. And all those big logs of dead you see there were alive. And the 4th hole was 100% elkhorn coral. It was amazing.
Thank you. Yes.
You guys mentioned the predatory snails and how alarming they were because of the presence of 3 of the 4 sites. Are those an invasive species, or is it just alarming because so much die off of the coral that the effects of the prey is really impacted?
The question asked was, are the predatory snails invasive? And
The snails are not an invasive species, but it's just alarming because they killed the coral.
Follow up on the snails. What are their natural predators, and are we seeing more snails because their predators are suffering?
The question was, what are the snails' natural predators?
We're not quite sure what their predators are at the moment, but they do eat the coral, so that, I mean, it's not like there's just not enough coral and there's too many snails, so they kill off the recovering populations.
Because we've seen such a decline in the populations of Acropora palmata or elkhorn coral, it's alarming because we still have these snails on the precious amount of, like the small amount of coral we have left. Like Ann Maxey said, right in front of her house, there used to be large quantities and large colonies of Acropora palmata. And when you have this predatory snail on just the few surviving left colonies of Acropora palmata around South Eleuthera, it's alarming in that sense.